think my book might be cursed. After everything that I have dealt with over the past several months trying so hard to get this book written, I thought that the part where I was done writing would mean that all the difficult parts were done and I could, move ahead into the more fun and the easier parts, and that just has not been the case. So I finished writing book 6 of Spectrum Legacy. I've got my little sign up here behind me with, my final word count and everything. And I fought so hard to be able to get that book done in May so that I could get it to my editor in time to have it out at the end of this month. And I am so exhausted and overwhelmed and stressed out with everything surrounding not just this book at this point, but also this series. And I guess to an extent, it's a good reminder that no matter how well you think you have things set up, there are always going to be unexpected issues, and there are always going to be things that are outside your control. Today is June 15th. Today was the day that I needed to order a proof copy of the book to have time to give it a final proofreading, make sure the formatting was good, and I can't order a proof today because I don't have the final cover art and the editing is not done. So my editor had some unexpected health issues, so she has not been able to get the editing done in the time frame that we originally planned. And of course, my cover artist is a full-time animator, and animation is a brutal field to work in. So even though my edits and revisions overall went really well, I was able to get through the book in just over a week, and that includes everything that was like the rewriting sections that weren't working, going back and fleshing things out. It went very smoothly, and it's one of the books that I feel like I had to do the least amount of work to in the end, but that doesn't help me when everybody else is facing challenges too. And at this point, it just sort of feels like everybody who has touched this book is suffering somehow. I can't even order an uncorrected proof to try to go through without the cover art because I need to know what the cover art is going to look like in print too. I always have to make some adjustments to the brightness and the color to make sure that it comes out well, and I can't do that until I have the finished piece. At this point in time, my editor is hoping that she can be done with the book in maybe like another week. I don't know how long it's going to take for the cover art to get done. I'm going to try to touch base with my cover artist later today and hopefully get an update, but no matter what I do at this point, it's not going to be June. I usually put the books up for at least like a 2-week pre-order period, and I'm just going to skip that and just launch it, and it's going to be the most lackluster and discouraging launch I think I've ever had for a book, because it's just going out into the wild as soon as it's ready. And there will be very little fanfare, and because I have been fighting all of this, I have no marketing materials ready, and this book was kind of supposed to be like a crown jewel in my career because this story was something that meant so much to me. And I felt like it had so much potential, and it just has done so poorly, and then I have fought every step of the way with this book to get it done. And I think sometimes we need to have space for conversations as authors about what it's like when that happens, because the end result is I'm not excited for this book to go out. I am not happy. I am not proud of how hard I've worked for all of this. I just feel disappointed and discouraged and let down by the entire experience of working on this series, even though it's something that as a whole I am proud of the story and I really love the story, but the process of getting here has been absolutely miserable. And since this is also kind of like a turning point for my journey as an author, it doesn't feel great to be leaving on a sour note. So one thing I will be exploring for this series in the future, probably not soon, but in the next couple of years, is how to tackle a relaunch when things just didn't really go well. Because one great thing about being an independent author is you can always relaunch a book. See, look at what this is doing me. You can see so much more gray hair. It just for the past few months of trying to get this book done. What a terrible experience. I'm doing a little bit of experimentation with series relaunching a little bit later this year. I'm going to start that project in August. I've already kind of been laying some groundwork for it, but I'll talk about it when it gets closer to that launch period. It's not for this series, but for something else, and I am looking forward to seeing where that might take me because I really think it's going to pave the way for these stories. I still have hope for this series. It's something that I really, really love, and it is something that I feel like overall I did a good job with it. I did a good job telling the story that I set out to tell. And even when I was going through edits, and I'm just really tired of dealing with this book, there were times where I would sit down and just kind of get caught up in the things that were happening in the story, and that feels really nice. I want to be able to capture more of that and bring more of that into my work. I know a lot of people talk about letting a book sit after you are done writing it before you go back and edit, and that has never worked for me because the problem I always face is that by the time I am done with something, I have a clear idea of what I need to go back and change and fix, and if I don't do it right then, I'm going to forget. Even if I take down notes, I've already got really solid ideas in my mind for how those things need to be fixed and changed, and it's really better for me to just go right back in and polish everything up. I'm the kind of person that once I'm done with the project, I like to, it's finished, it's put aside. I don't think about it anymore. I don't think about polishing it anymore. I don't spend any more time stewing over how I can make it better. Because I spent years doing that with the Snakesplits saga, and ultimately I don't feel that extra time made the series any better. It just made it different from my original vision. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. But there was nothing wrong with the original version either, and it didn't gain anything other than just general plot changes. It's just a different book than it would have been. Not a better book, just a different one. So I don't spend a ton of time sitting and stewing over things. A couple of weeks away from the project is enough, and I have had that now, so I just went through edits, just this week. So it's been several weeks since I finished up the story. I was definitely able to go back and read some sentences where I was like, where was I even going with this? And I just take the whole thing out. Even though I spent a lot of time tightening things up, I did add in a couple of scenes. The book did not grow as much as they usually do. I'm usually a very bad underdrafter, and I have to go back and put in a lot of context for scenes that didn't make it in the first time because all the context stayed in my head and didn't make it out on paper. But I didn't have that as much this time. So the book is just shy of 135,000 words. So that means that it really only grew maybe 500 or so words over the course of heavy edits. During the course of all these delays, I spent some time talking to some of my friends. They happen to be people who have done beta reading for me in the past and have also gone back and, reread the final versions of books. And they have said that maybe I should consider not using an editor the way that I have. I've always kind of felt that everybody needs to have an editor, but I also have to admit that out of all the different editors that I have worked with, even though some of them, they do a really good job, most of what they do is just copy editing or catching small things that I would get in my own revisions anyway. Mostly the useful feedback that I get comes from beta readers, not necessarily paid editors. And as I've been going through this book with my editor, I have kind of wondered because it's most of what I'm getting is just really basic, more proofreader type work. It hasn't needed any big changes. I have a few occasional sentences that are weird grammatically that need to be corrected, but nothing has changed any of the structure of what I have actually laid out. I remember reading a blog post from Christine Catherine Rush a long time ago that said that once you are a developed author, you need so much less editing. And she mentioned having a publisher that actually used her work as training material for their new editors because they knew that in general, they probably didn't need to change more than 1 or 2 things per 10,000 words in any of the work that she submitted. And I don't think that I'm quite on that level yet because I still go through and in maybe a 3,000 word chapter, I'll find maybe 10 words that I want to switch out for stronger words, or, you know, just fixing occasional typos. But I'm also coming to understand that a lot of that is really nitpicky work, and if I use the same word 2 or 3 times on a page when there's just not really a lot of synonyms for that particular word, then it probably doesn't ultimately matter. So I don't know, maybe that's something for me to experiment with when I am working on a fairy tale this fall. I really wish I had something more exciting to share right now. I really wish that I was being able to make a video where I could hold up a proof copy of the book and reveal the cover and just share all of that excitement, but this is the unfortunate reality of authoring sometimes, is that sometimes you get to the end and it is just a disappointment and you are ready to move on. So that's how things are going now. I just thought I would share an update since I have been absent for a few weeks. So yeah, it's not great, but I hope you are having a great start to your summer, and hopefully mine will pick up and be a little bit happier in the coming weeks. But that's it for now. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.